Prime origin. Reproduction is the propagation of patterns through time and space. But how does a pattern begin? What is the origin that initiates a pattern? If we are to observe reproduction in absolute terms, adhering strictly to the principle of no isolation, where all reproductive phenomena exist within the same physical universe with no separation between reproductive acts, then in theory we can trace all acts of reproduction to a single origin. All books, technologies, and manufactured goods can be traced back to human beings, who are biological organisms subject to reproduction. Through evolution, the lineage of human beings can be traced back to a single-celled organism that existed billions of years ago. But how did this single-celled organism arise? At this point, the lineage is unclear, and the best we can do is hypothesize that, in the very beginning, there existed a self-propagating protein structure that eventually gave rise to the first single-celled organisms. But how did this self-propagating protein structure originate? What is needed is a prime origin that describes, in completely probabilistic terms, how reproduction, the act of self-propagation, begins from scratch. For a Patternist, the phenomenon of reproduction is guaranteed by the inherent properties of the universe. If the possibility of reproduction exists, no matter how small the probability, given enough time and randomness, the state in which reproduction occurs will eventually be achieved. Prime origin. Conditions. Necessary for spontaneous reproduction. 1. Reproductive possibility. The existence of a state within the system that includes entities capable of reproduction. The probability of reaching that state may be minimal, but as long as it exists, it remains achievable over time. 2. Inherent randomness. The system can transition through various states and events. It is dynamic rather than static. 3. Passage of time. Time allows a system to change states, essentially rolling the dice. With the passage of time, the system will cycle through increasing numbers of potential states. 4. Resource limits. There must be sufficient resources for the reproducing entity to recreate and propagate itself. Resources do not need to be infinite, they need only suffice to maintain the population and allow evolutionary processes. Resources may be recycled once the population reaches maximum capacity, as reproducing entities will have access to fellow members, which they can consume and break down as resources through phenomena such as predation and cannibalism, limited only by energy constraints. With enough time, the state containing self-propagating entities will be achieved. The probability of reaching spontaneous reproduction approaches certainty as more rolls of the dice occur. All that is required is the emergence of the one entity capable of reproduction, the prime origin. Once reproduction begins, a population will form, allowing evolution to take over, with self-propagation increasing in complexity and efficiency through evolutionary processes. The only significant limitation is the occurrence of catastrophic events that might reset the entire process. Even then, for the process to be halted entirely, such an event would need to eliminate all reproductive entities. If even one self-propagating entity survives, a population will eventually re-emerge. For a Patternist, among all possible states in this universe, only the state that contains self-propagation is distinct. The only phenomenon that truly matters is reproduction. All else will be eliminated by the passage of time. This applies universally to all that exists. No exceptions.